How you doing? It's Stephen Mill here now. As you can see quite clearly, I'm at East End Park, and today I'm catching up with a couple of the investors who have taken over Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. So Thomas is at the training ground with Peter Grant today over at Alloa, so I sat down with Nick and Damir for a little chat. Here's what happened. Well, welcome to East End Park, Damir, Nick. Lovely to finally meet you in person. And how does it feel being sat here in the boardroom of Dunfermline Athletic as the new owners of Dunfermline Athletic?
I feel wonderful, Damir.
Pretty good, I have to say. Yeah, it's a nice feeling, especially after we had to wait. It feels like a decade almost to get over here, but yeah, it's almost odd that we can, travel and come here and be here. But it's a very nice environment, very nice feeling.
You mentioned that it felt an age for us as well. I know we spoke on Zoom, which seems like ages ago now as well. Talk us through the process from then to now, because at that stage your shareholding was much less, but now it's been completed up to that 70%, hasn't it?
Well, I think what we felt was initially, just taking the whole thing back again to when it started, we were going to complete the transaction in March last year, and then Corona hit, and we put the whole thing on hold. And then, as you know, we in the summer started talking about at least making a first step to keep the momentum going, to make sure that everyone was still on board, because sometimes situations change. We just felt it was the right thing to do, and also a good gesture towards the club in the middle of Corona, in the middle of the pandemic and lockdown, to say, actually, we'll still do it. We wanted to make that gesture. So we did that. And as you know, we had an option to increase that stake till, I think it was May next year. But then it became clear that there's a lot of investments which need to be made at the club. Infrastructure investments, we'll come to that maybe later, training ground, academy. And in order to be able to do that, you sort of need to have a bit of financial stability and safety and security to do that. And seeing as that's our intention as well, we agreed to the request of the board when Ross approached us to say, would we bring that forward? And we were quite happy to do that. We were going to exercise the option anyway, and so why not do it earlier in order to bring forward the ability to put the right things in place? So that's how it all happened. And delighted it did, no regrets.
Even after, Sam?
Even after. No regrets at all.
We'll get into the football in just a wee second. I know Thomas isn't here, but we'll cover it lightly. But in terms of the infrastructure, you mentioned it there. You've identified, I believe, a number of things that need upgraded or built or invested in. What are those things, and how far along the process are we with the likes of the training ground, for example?
Yeah, well, I guess it's not too hard to get aware of the fact that you do need a training ground, because one of our ideas is also to attract talents to Dunfermline in the future. And how do you attract talented players if you don't have your own training ground? Pretty hard to do, to convince them. So that was definitely high up on our priority list. And also, of course, the ideal situation is that at some stage you have some players come out of your own youth academy, but you can't have them come up if you don't have your own youth academy. So we felt it was really important to start a youth academy, and then again, you can't start that without your own training ground. So that tied in with each other, and we felt those are the two most important topics we have to tackle at the moment. And like Nick said, you can't do that without financial support and financial stability. We all agreed on the fact that was super necessary in order to get the club to the next stage at some stage.
And I think also the training facility is something we want the club to be able to be proud of. People who work there day in, day out should come there, be happy to come there, and be attracted to the place. And when we show the facilities to people who come from other parts of the world, maybe, who we can bring here, or we want to attract the talent, it's good to have something that the club can be proud of. And I think that's something which we want to put in place.
Is there a timeline for the training ground?
As soon as possible.
I'm guessing you've been here for just under a week now, I believe. Have you been out looking at sites, looking at places, possible places for the training ground?
Yeah, we've been around, and there's a couple of options, and we hope we'll be able to do something as soon as possible. Don't pin us down on whatever that is, but that's something which we have high on the agenda because we just like that to be in place.
Have you had any chance to spend some time in the town? Have you got your favourite pub yet, or anything like that?
Well, we had a tour yesterday by somebody who knew a lot about the history of Dunfermline, so it's whetted our appetite. So there's a lot to catch up on.
Excellent. There's a few very good pubs in town. I can recommend a few of them. So in terms of your initial priorities, what would you say they are?
Nick? Training facility, academy, feet on the ground, meet everybody, meet the people who work so hard behind the scenes at the club, all of the supporters, community, everyone. There's so many. I mean, it's difficult to remember exactly how many there are. We're meeting quite a lot of them this week. Everyone who's putting work into this club, because I think, as we said on a number of occasions, we looked hard around the world virtually for a club where we could get engaged, because what we were looking for was somewhere where we don't replace what's there, but we want to add to it. And for that you need to cooperate, you have to work together, you have to feel comfortable, and so we really want to meet as many people as possible. That's a priority for this week.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Priority is also to show what Nick just mentioned, that we're not wanting to replace anybody or anything, but that we want to add. And you want to make sure that all the people that are involved in the club and that have been involved in the club, that they understand that that's our idea of going forward here.
Yeah, you've mentioned on a number of occasions before your relationship with Ross, who was staying on as chairman. Just how important is that, and how important is Ross in the future of this football club?
You see the handcuffs in the corner, we placed them there. That's how important it is. We took the key, we've got it, he's not able to get off on his own. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely, yeah. He's an enthusiastic guy. I'm guessing Ross at the current board, you mentioned you looked all over the world for suitable football clubs to invest in. They played a big part in why you chose Dunfermline.
Absolutely. I think we saw many clubs and it just wasn't right, but when we met Ross and the rest of the board, we knew that this was right. That's why we've ended up in Fife, actually, because of the people. And it was a breath of fresh air, and because we both, Damir and I, are of an age where we want to do things which we enjoy from now on, and we want to be together with people we like being with and whom we feel we can do things together with, where it's something which is productive together rather than the many other situations you find in other clubs. So this is the reason we're here. It's essential, absolutely essential.
And in terms of the football side, I know it wasn't an ideal result on Saturday, but I guess just being at the match, having the crowd there as well, is just fantastic, isn't it?
Well, we waited, like I said before, also long enough to come here, but to come back and see a match, I think the last time was in February last year that we were here. It's a long time. It was pretty exciting to be here. Unfortunately, the excitement was a little bit, went downhill a little bit for a while. But generally, it was a great experience to be here, to be in the stadium, to have the crowds back, to watch a game here actually live. Obviously, we followed all the games streaming in Germany, but it was a great moment.
And of course, since last season as well, we have a new head coach, a new manager, Peter Grant. I believe that Thomas and you guys were involved in that appointment as well. What did you see in Peter that made him the right man for the job?
Well, I can't speak for Thomas really, because he's the main guy when it comes to questions regarding the sporting side. But I think we were all really impressed the way that the team played that he coached beforehand, especially since from what I understand, they were only part-time. They were part-time, not professionals, part-time players, and considering that, we felt they had a very, very nicely structured game. I mean, they didn't have the individual players that were strong enough to keep them in the league, but we felt that the way that they played really, we really liked the way that they played. You know, we felt that he was able to get the best out of the ability of the players that he had there, and that's always a great asset in a manager, I think. And so, you know, we're hoping he's going to be able to achieve the same thing here. We're pretty confident he will be. And it was mentioned that he's a man of high integrity, and we really like that.
Obviously, it's still early days. There's a long way to go in the season. One thing that struck me when I spoke to you last time, you spoke about increasing the probability of us reaching, you know, the Premiership, reaching the next level. I guess it's just you guys behind the scenes trying to put the infrastructure in place to allow Peter to do his job to the best of his abilities.
Exactly. I think that's what we've said from the beginning, that there are certain things which need to be in place to even, you know, have the chance in the first place. So we want to put those building blocks in place. It doesn't happen overnight. Things take a little bit longer than we're quite impatient, but things take a little longer. We also have to be patient, but we want to put these building blocks in place for it to be sustainable. There's no point just trying to be over-ambitious in one season. In fact, I think the club tried it a couple of years ago. It's got to be done from the bottom up, and that involves everybody, and that's why we just need to build it over time, and that's our commitment.
Yeah, that's another, you know, key phrase that I noticed last time, the sustainability of the club, and Ross mentioned that when I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago.
It's so important. I mean, there's no other way to do it.
And, you know, Ross has been a custodian of this club for so long. You guys have taken on the mantle, and it's about making sure that this club is still here in another 150 years, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned custodianship. I like that word, because your very first question to us was, what does it feel like sitting here as new owners? Quite honestly, you don't really feel like owners, because you are a custodian. We happen to be here now. This club's been around since 1885. It'll be here for another 150 years or longer, and we're joining it on this journey. And so it's actually a kind of honor and responsibility at the same time, which we feel quite strongly. So we want to do things right, and we want to make sure that we help along in this part of what is a, you know, very long journey, which we've only been here a very, very small part, and we want to play that role.
Where do you see the club in 5 to 10 years' time?
Possibly winning in a game like Friday night.
That would be fantastic.
To be honest, I never have, you know, I have a background, as some of you might know, in tennis. I used to be a professional tennis player, and when they asked me what my goal was at the time, it was very hard for me to define. I always said I want to become the best that I can be, and whatever the end result of that will be, you know, that'll happen. I couldn't put at the time a number and say I want to be the number 20 player in the world, I want to win this tournament, because it just wasn't me, and it's the same here now. I think it's hard for me to say we want to be there or there in 5 or 10 years. I just want us to be the best that we can be with the possibilities that we have here, and wherever it'll take us. Hopefully it'll be to a very nice spot, but you never know what's going to happen along the way.
So obviously you got to meet a few of the fans on Saturday. What's your message to them right now as the new custodians of Dunfermline Athletic? What's the message you want to give to them to get them back to East End Park and get us where we want to be, the best that we can be?
I think the message is that we will put everything we can into developing the club further, and we would like everyone to continue to support the club and bring as many new people in as possible. Get your friends and family to come to the games, to buy season tickets, to come in, because it's a joint effort in which we feel that we're playing a part. But as I said, we don't feel like we haven't come in as new owners to change everything. We want to build on it, and we'd like everyone to be more involved even than they have been in the past. That would be my message, my wish, and we commit to play our part in that.
And finally, I'm guessing, you know, this is just the start, but there's a lot more to come from you guys as well, a lot more announcements to come in the coming months and hopefully years.
Steady as she goes, bit by bit, sustainably we want to build it.